Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio in Cumming, Georgia, it's time for FOCO Talks, brought to you by the Forsyth County Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome back to FOCO Talks. I'm James McCoy with the Chamber. We are so glad to have you back. And today we have a really, really exciting conversation with somebody that I have known and been friends with for just barely shy of 20 years. He is now our state house rep. Carter Barrett is with us today. Carter, thank you for joining us. Glad to have you.
James, thank you for letting me come in today. And Amanda, it's nice to see you again.
So thank you, Carter, for being with us. So Carter, rather than me doing an intro and reading your bio and all of that, why don't you just take a few minutes? Tell us the Carter Barrett story.
Well, so great. I was born in Augusta, Georgia. I'm a graduate of University of Georgia, and I'm a banker for almost 35 years. I came to Forsyth County to work June 4 of 1990, so 34 years ago. I worked for Wachovia Bank on the square. When I first got here, they had just finished the census, and Forsyth County had 45,000 people.
Wow.
So obviously we've seen a lot of things change since I got here. And many great things, and some things that we need to be aware of and mindful of going forward. But I guess I started in Forsyth County volunteering at the Sawney Community Center over 30 years ago, setting up the track for the bike course for their annual fundraiser, and did that for 4 or 5 years. And after that, I just got involved in many different ways. Very active in the Chamber of Commerce over the years, and as a banker, it's funny. Back then, people think about the chamber. The chamber was kind of, back then we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have, we had Rolodexes, and you would go to the Chamber of Commerce to meet folks, and it was primarily the conduit to go out and meet folks in the business community. And so I just plugged in and got very involved very early on. As a banker, I worked for Wachovia Bank for probably 15 years. I opened up a branch where the Halcyon is located today. Back then, that was just a field, and there wasn't much going on down there at all. I remember you'd go work on the weekends, and people would come out, and they would be shooting birds and hunting and stuff out there, and while you're in there writing credit memos. So it was just a very different place. Polo fields had been started, but Vickery, the collection, Northside Hospital, none of these things were here at all. It's just a very different place. After 15 years of working for Wachovia, I went to Regions Bank as their senior lender for a while, a couple of years. And then in 2006, left there to start a bank called Community Business Bank with two of my associates. We raised $16.8 million from 313 investors, almost all of whom are local, and built one of the, just a very clean, tidy bank with an excellent balance sheet and honestly, one of the cleaner banks in the entire country. We built that up and successfully transitioned that to Community and Southern Bank, which then sold to Bank OZK back in 2015, and had a good, solid outcome for our investors. And so in business, I'm mostly known for being the founder and the CEO of Community Business Bank. And But a lot, banking's funny to me. A lot of people used to get involved in the community, the Chamber of Commerce, things like that, so they could pursue their careers and grow their careers. I always looked at it just the opposite way. I thought it's great to be a banker because it gives you an opportunity to be involved in the community. And I'm very proud of the fact that 30 years of being very involved in this community. So that's kind of my story.
Well, that's a remarkable story. And, actually, I should tell you, I don't think I've ever told you this. So when you started the bank, you guys were giving away ball caps that had Community Business Bank on it. And I had it in my car. I went on a little fishing excursion. I fly fish, and so I'd gone on this little fishing excursion, and I didn't take my normal hat. And that day, I caught the largest brown trout I have ever caught. And to this day, that is my lucky fishing hat. And I have a special place in my closet so I don't forget it. And so I have a special attachment above and beyond the business connection to Community Business Bank. So thank you. I don't know that I've ever thanked you for that, but I attribute it to the hat.
And that's fantastic. I've never heard that story before, and it makes me almost a little misty. That's right. To hear that, and that makes my day.
Well, good. Well, so Carter, you're talking about the community and the opportunity of being a banker. Was opened the door to being really involved with the community. Tell me about some of the things that you worked on over the years that you're just most proud of from a community perspective. I mean, and what are some of the hallmarks for you when you look back?
James, it's funny. There's so many different things that it's almost hard to recall them all. But and the Chamber of Commerce was a cornerstone of many of those things, and many of those are direct offshoots. I think back in 1996, I served on the executive committee of the Chamber of Commerce and headed up the economic development division. Mm-hmm. There was a period of time when we didn't have a chamber executive or president, and I remember Rusty Whitlow was the chairman of the chamber board, mm-hmm. and when we lost our president, I had to sort of take over economic development without any real reinforcements. I was still a pretty shy person back then. I remember we had the steeplechase, which we used to have down at Polo Fields, and having to bring in Georgia Power and the Department of Industry, Trade, and Tourism, which back then, and sort of managing that process. So those are some fun memories. Just been active in everything from the Sawney Community Center to the United Way Board to this Chamber of Commerce. I'm very proud. Back in 1994. We started Leadership Forsyth. Phil Bettis and a group of folks started Leadership Forsyth back in about 1989, if I remember correctly. And it kind of faltered in the early years, and Jim Wheeler and Cindy Wheeler and I were asked if we could sort of give it a little jump start again to get it going again, and we did in 1995, and I went through the class in 1995. But as we look around the community at all the friends that we have that have graduated from Leadership Forsyth and youth leadership as well, I'm especially proud of that because those are the things that have a ripple effect that you can't even quantify out in a community. It's like what's the value of a great teacher, right? How can you say that how many lives that person touches and how history has changed because of one great teacher? Leadership Forsyth I kind of look at that way. All the great people that have come through that program, and there's just no telling how the many different ways they'll contribute. But that was a good one.
Well, and along those lines, Kurt, I mean, that very idea, I mean, I got to know you well through, you served as co-chair of Envision 2030, and that was, 17, 18 years ago when we did that, and which was a pretty large-scale community visioning process. Tell us about Envision 2030. What attracted you to that, and what, when you look back on that and that effort, and now we're, not that far from 2030. What do you find most intriguing about that, or what's the most interesting part of that?
What's that expression? If you don't know where you're going, pretty much any road will do. And we were blessed in so many ways in this community, but that was really an opportunity to just sort of say we need to slow down and take a breath and come together as a community to decide what success looks like and what we want the future of the county and our community to look like, the city and the county. And so we had a series of meetings. I co-chaired that with a gentleman named Brett Berto, and during that year we hosted a series of meetings over a year-long period, and we probably had 1,000 or 1,200 people come to it, and they give their input about what they think would be great to have, and to set sort of a point way out on the horizon that we could all shoot for as a community. One of the things that was a direct offshoot of that was an outcome was we should be a community of lifelong learning. We should have a 4-year university right here in Forsyth County, and as a result of that, work began on University of North Georgia and getting them to create a campus here in Forsyth County. And I'm so proud of what that is today and the opportunities that creates for our community. A great representative, James, in my opinion, long after they are gone and you've forgotten their name, hopefully there are visible, tangible ways that the community's better off and that families are better off because of the contributions those representatives made. And honestly, that was a big part of why I ran. University of North Georgia was a big part of that Envision 2030 project, one of the key outcomes that I'm most proud of. But there were many, many others regarding transportation, education, K through 12 education. The Parks and Rec were certainly a big outcome of that. And even the Greenway that we all enjoy today, even all those types of things, all those ideas, a lot of that emerged out of Envision 2030. Honestly, I hope that maybe as a community we could look at doing something like that again. Let's talk about Envision 2050 and maybe what we want that to look like.
Well, and one of the things that a little more indirectly, but one of the things that came out of Envision 2030 was really taking a look at the beautification of Forsyth County. How do we enhance the overall look and feel of the county in all kinds of ways. And part of that discussion turned into a discussion among the business community that ultimately, really, it took a number of years, almost 10 years, but the creation of the South Forsyth Community Improvement District. And so not everybody knows that it exists, but if you are at exit 12 and you wonder why previously it looked like you could cut hay on it, and now it's crepe myrtles and really well landscaped, and they've done a beautiful job. That was not general homeowner tax dollars that paid for that. That was the Community Improvement District that managed that. Just like south of us, it's the North Fulton Community Improvement District that manages a lot of the beautification on those exits. So, and Carter, just that alone, I mean, the CID is already doing a lot of other great work to enhance the very south part of the county, to give it its own identity and brand. And not only through Envision 2030, but then in actually helping the chamber identify property owners and getting them to sign on, which is no small task. You're getting them to sign on to say, yeah, I'm going to tax myself an extra few mills to pay for this. But you were instrumental in helping us reach out to those business folks to do that. So, when you look back on that, and all of the roots of that go back to Envision 2030. When you look at that and where we are today, what impact did that really? What does it have on you as a business person? What impact does it have on you as a community leader?
Well, I mean, little things are big things. So when I come up Georgia I can remember almost 30 years ago, I remember riding up Georgia 400, coming up from somewhere south where I lived at the time. And I remember following a pickup truck and watching the paper cup fly out of the back of the truck on Georgia 400. And I remember thinking, what did he think would happen when he threw that paper cup in the back of his truck and then got on the interstate or the highway and went 70 miles an hour? And, of course, the truck, it flew. And I thought, aesthetically, what can we do to have a more enjoyable community that everybody can enjoy? So envision, the South Forsyth CID, when the idea emerged and someone said, Carter, could you help out with that? It was a logical thing to say, absolutely. I try to not ever say no when people ask for help. Sometimes I have to whisper yes, but I try to always lean in and help out when I can. And that was a logical fit because as a banker for many, many years in the community, I've gotten to know a lot of the business owners in the community. So when I can call Nick at the company on McFarland Road and call Taki at the company in the Meadows and others like that and say, here's an idea that y'all might want to look at and consider. I think it'll be good for you and the entire area. Mm-hmm. People kind of responded very favorably. So the value I added is I just have been around a while, so I know a few folks, and people know me, and they know that they can sort of count on me to be forthright and honest and give them good thoughts.
So you also was a chair for the Education Splost. Remind me of the year, Carter. It's been a number of years.
I think it was 2017.
2017. And I know we just recently, in fact, we hosted State of the Schools, and they did a big ribbon cutting just before that at Midway Elementary, the new Midway Elementary School. And that was a product of that Education Splost, that eSplost. So, and I know there were a number of other things. Why in the world would a business person, somebody who's running their own bank, want to chair An education's lost. I mean, you're a parent. I know that, but beyond that, I mean, why would the business community care? Why would you care?
We're just fortunate in this community to have such great schools, and that has done so much for all of us. Jamie, my wife, and I have been married for 30 years this January, and we have 2 daughters, Eleanor and Cornelia, and both are products of Forsyth County schools. Forsyth County schools have been wonderful for our family. And that we had great outcomes with our kids. And so when the school system that's done so much for me and for my family asked if we could help out, at least getting the word out, it wasn't, hey, you should support East Bloss or you shouldn't support East Bloss, but rather, here's the information. The citizens we have very smart people in this community, and they usually make the right, collectively, we make the right decisions. So putting the information out to the voters so they could choose, and just making sure that we were doing a thorough job so that people could decide, yes, we want to support, this is a good mechanism to support our school system, or maybe not. And the voters voted overwhelmingly to support that East Bloss initiative. I'm so proud of that. I mean, Midway Elementary School is right in the heart of the district that I represent, and I'm so honored to represent. But that school, the school that we replaced, was 60 years old. Give or take, a little bit more than 60 years old. It was long overdue. That school today is absolutely debt-free because of that Education Splost initiative that the voters overwhelmingly approved. I was delighted to my kids were already well past that, but I was delighted to help out because the school system's done such great things for my family and for me.
Very good. Well, and that sort of leads me, so you've had this storied career in building, as a banker and building your own bank, and that being incredibly successful. You've got this incredible story of being involved with some really linchpin initiatives that have gone on that help build Forsyth County. So you're doing those things. You're being very successful. What caused you to decide to run for a state house seat?
James, I think running for office was just a logical extension of what I've always tried to do for 30 plus years in Forsyth County. I love being involved, and I love helping out. This community has been so good to me and to my family. When I first came to Forsyth County, I was completely broke. I drove a car that I'd have to park on a hill to clutch start, I put on my little off the rack suits and try and fake it and park where no one could see you clutch starting your car, but just showing up, being involved, helping out, and as in return, the county responds. People appreciate that, and they helped me build a successful career as a banker, and then they helped me build a bank successfully right here in Forsyth County, and it's just. Serving in office is just like serving on the Chamber of Commerce board or being the president of the Rotary Club or taking on the East Bloss initiative or helping get Leadership Forsyth going. It's just another way to serve. I felt like we needed a civics lesson in Forsyth County, the role of a representative. I believe a great representative, he or she really knows their community backwards and forwards because they've spent the time, they've invested their time and effort in it. They know they spend a lot of time with the elected officials in the city, the county, public safety, and the school system, and then they spend a ton of time talking to the citizens and finding out what their hopes and aspirations are. So they build good relationships here. They work closely with their chamber, which this Chamber of Commerce has done so much for this community for so long, so much for our school system, so much for our infrastructure. They've done a lot of the heavy lifting over decades, and I've watched it firsthand, and it's just been amazing to watch. But I building good relationships and understanding your community and understanding the needs of the community, and then going to the Capitol and building good rapport and good relationships there so that you can be effective and bring results back to your community. We don't want to always just be a big donor community that sends lots of money down to the Capitol in the form of income taxes and sales taxes, et cetera, but rather there are certain things we need to benefit the citizens of the county. And I thought having a good advocate, a good representative knows this community, builds good relationships in the community, understands the needs of the community, and then they go down to the Capitol, whether they're a senator or a representative, and they are a fierce advocate for the community at the Capitol.
Very good. Very good. So, you get to the Capitol, and you're now serving on the, among other committees, the Higher Education Committee. Tell us, so first of all, what is the Higher Education, Committee? I mean, what does it oversee? What does it do? And how does that help all of us?
Think colleges and technical schools, Higher Education Committee. The things that have to do with making sure that we have a state education system, higher education system, second to none, is the goal of that committee. Anything related to the Hope Scholarship tends to come through that committee. Funding for schools like University of North Georgia and Lanier Tech, those come through those committees. Dual enrollment. So I serve. I asked to be on the Higher Education Committee. It was my top pick when I went down. We've got such a great school system here in Forsyth County, K through 12, and I'm especially proud of our pathways program, our 53 different career pathways in Forsyth County. I think we're the tip of the spear in the entire state of Georgia. Nobody does it better than we do. But higher ed is in having a great access to education, not only for our kids coming out of school, whether it's college or technical school, but also our adults too. When I was younger, we used to think, well, you'll work till you're 62 and you probably will kick the bucket when you're 72 and you have to save enough money to last for your retirement. Well, today people are routinely living to be 95 and even 100 years old. So not only helping, and so we've got so many things affecting us that we have to plan for. If our young people are coming out of school and inflation is dramatic. Mm-hmm. We've seen just, and it was fairly obvious what was coming. You can't take in $4 trillion a year and spend $5.5 or $6 trillion a year indefinitely and not have inflation. So it's fairly obvious what was coming. But with dramatic inflation, with artificial intelligence, change is going to make dramatic changes in the economy. Yeah. And how we make a living over the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to happen a lot faster than people think. Helping our kids plan ahead so that they are relevant, but also our adults, people my age. Now you've got a long way to go. You've got inflation putting real pressure on families and how you're going to pay for things. So I chose higher education because I thought, first of all, I want our kids to have really great options right here close to home. I was honored to become the vice chairman of the House Dual Enrollment Committee last summer, because Forsyth County is a big dual enrollment community. My daughter Cornelia had her associate's degree for college before she ever graduated from high school. I think, how does that affect local families? Yeah. What a huge benefit to families to be able to get real college credit or technical school credit while still under the watchful eyes of their parents. But from talking about inflation, how expensive things are, a lot of kids can't afford to go off to Vanderbilt or wherever they go. And having a great option right here in our own backyard, like at Lanier Tech and at University of North Georgia, that just gets me so excited. So I asked to be on that committee because I want to pour it on to make sure that we are continuing to feed those things and help them grow. This year, a couple of weeks ago, we just opened a great new building at University of North Georgia campus in Cumming. Mm-hmm. We also brought the delegation in Forsyth, which includes our House members and our senators. We brought meaningful funds to Lanier Tech, over $7 million, to help renovate one of the buildings down there that's going to have a real impact on our community. We brought over $3 million, helped to bring over $3 million for the new STEM building at University of North Georgia's campus in Dahlonega and the eventual creation of the new engineering program. That's going to affect families right here in our community. Mm-hmm. University of Georgia and their new medical school. Yeah. That funding coming through the Capitol for that. A lot of families in this county are going to have kids who go to medical school right there in Athens. And I just couldn't be more excited about that. So just helping us position ourselves for a changing economy, a changing future, and we can't fix inflation locally. We can't control profligate spending in Washington, D.C., but what we can do is we can stack the deck locally to make sure our kids and our parents and families have absolutely the best tools at their fingertips to make sure they're viable and can have a good, successful future.
So something that we have talked about on FOCO Talks before, especially with other elected officials in the past, that's come up, and I'm hoping you'll touch base on it as well. So there's been a great deal of discussion. We've had since 2021 we've experienced some pretty significant increases in what property taxpayers are paying, homeowners and commercial business operators as well. And you were involved with some of the help kind of stem that a bit, and at least help homeowners address that with a floating homestead exemption. What is a floating homestead exemption? Excuse me. What is a floating homestead exemption, and how's that going to impact a homeowner in Forsyth County?
So, James, I'll answer your question by asking you a question. How much have property taxes on average, home taxes for the average family in Forsyth grown? It's been fairly dramatic in the last couple of years.
Sure. It's ranged between 30 and 50%, depending on where you are and who you are. But yeah, I mean, it's double digits.
Yeah, my small home, the assessed value has grown 41% in the last 2 years. Yeah. And so the floating homestead exemption was an idea that emerged before I was ever elected. But we had trouble getting that over the proverbial finish line before. And I saw that and saw the need for it because we saw what was happening with assessment. So I started working early, even while I was campaigning, talking to school board members and folks in administration, the former superintendent, deputy superintendent, and all the school board members. And just sort of started massaging that to get it forward. To make that happen, what the floating homestead exemption does is it essentially will cap people's property taxes for schools at 4% in any given year. So rather than seeing the potential for shock and awe when you get your tax bill, you'll have some relief, assuming the voters vote for it. This will be on the ballot in November. And hopefully voters will go out. Every voter, doesn't matter what party you're in. If you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, if you're an independent, doesn't matter. This is good for every family in this county. It will cap your property taxes at 4% in any given year so that you don't have to worry about your mortgage payment going up dramatically because you're having to set aside more money for your mortgage payment for taxes.
Yeah.
Everybody in this county should support that initiative.
Very good.
And the trick to that one was we had to get, because of the way we're set up, we had to get a unanimous resolution from our school board, all 5 board members, and a unanimous resolution from all 8 people in the Capitol who represent all or part of Forsyth County. So it took 13 people to get on board and grab a paddle and go in the same direction on that. So I'm super proud of the way that the delegation worked together, and I'm super proud with the school board, and we all came together for something that was good for the community. I just happened to be the person to be the primary sponsor on the bill, but I'm very proud for that.
Very good. Well, Carter, thank you. So we've just got just a couple of minutes left, but I don't want us to miss a chance to talk a little bit about roads. Especially so. I don't know when this is going to actually air, but we're moving into the second week of school being in Forsyth County, and we're all feeling the adjustment of drive times in the mornings and afternoons, and being reminded that traffic congestion's a very real issue in Forsyth County. So I know there was recently a big presentation at one of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners meeting from the delegation. Tell us about that and how that's going to impact all of us.
Well, James, I was super excited. Our delegation was able to help bring $120 million in funding from the Capitol to make road improvements to Highway 20 and also to the McGinnis Ferry interchange off of 400. Coincidentally, both of those road projects are in the district that I'm honored to represent, House District 24. Those are the types of things that are bipartisan. The roads don't know if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat or an independent. They're just the roads, and we need better roads and safer roads. We have 53,000 children in our school system, a lot of young drivers. And a lot of the roads you ride on in this county, as you're riding along, there'll be very steep shoulders, and you think, gosh, one kid texting and driving could end up going down a steep shoulder and into the woods, and that's a scary thought. So always, Forsyth County is doing a better job than most places on transportation. We've got many great road projects that have happened. Many of those were a direct result of a transportation bond that were done back in 2014. The new Ronald Reagan extension going between 141 and McFarland Road was a prime example. It's a great road and will bring a lot of relief on traffic. The Bethelview Road improvements that are coming to Post Road, Highway 20. They're just numerous examples. We're doing actually quite well, but we've got to plan ahead. We've got to control the growth in this county. But I'm so proud to play a role with the rest of our delegation in bringing results back to Forsyth County. Talk is cheap, and we don't need more politicians who talk in terms of sound bites about this issue or that issue they heard on the television when they woke up this morning. We need real results right here in Forsyth County, and that's exactly why I ran for office. We've got really smart people representing this county in the delegation on the Senate side and the House side, and I'm proud to work with them, knowing that we're bringing real results like funding for the new Denmark Library, funding for $120 million in funding for roads. That fund for me are right in the district that I'm in.
Yeah.
But things like that. Politics is local, and long after I'm in office, there should be good, obvious, visible ways that your lives are better off because I served you. I don't want a thing out of this for me whatsoever. I just want to serve honorably and truthfully and effectively.
Well, as someone who's known you a long time, you are the real deal, and we're grateful. And I'm also a constituent of yours, so I'm grateful that you're there and doing a phenomenal job. You have been and continue to be just a world-class leader, and thank you for that. So that wraps us up for FOCO Talks this month, and we will. Carter, appreciate you being with us, and we'll look forward to having everybody back in a few weeks.
Thank you, James, and thank you for all that you have done for this great community over a long time. And it is certainly well noticed, and I've watched it firsthand, and I just am beyond grateful for the contributions of this organization.
Thank you.